Hello Year 8. I just wanted to go through your Specialised cell project with you and make sure that you had some instructions that you could go back to as you're working on it, potentially from home. Remember that this project includes 3.5 hours of class time and at least an hour at home is expected. So it's 4.5 hours worth of work, and 3.5 hours you'll have full access to me. Obviously contact me if you have questions or ideas that you'd like to bounce off me, and you can send any of those messages through Teams. So in class you downloaded the Word document of this from your files. As you go through, once you've downloaded it, make sure you save that with your name in it, just in case you use the Word document to submit your poster. I'll read this through to you. So your project is to construct an information report or a product describing a specialized cell of your choice. This needs to be a human body cell, and you need to do the following. You need to give a detailed description of the structure of the cell. Okay, what that will mean is that you're drawing some kind of original diagram. You can't just take a diagram from the internet. You need to label it and describe that structure. So what is it that's special about that specialized cell? Explain how it's designed for its function. Okay, so you need to explain what the function of that cell is within a tissue, within an organ, and then describe the structure of that cell in that context. So how is it designed to do its specific job? What is it that makes that cell different? And how is that useful for its function? Organelles within the cell you need to describe, and how they're important to the function of that cell. Now, I'm trying not to give you examples as I go, which is a bit difficult, but please come and see me if you're not sure about what that particular cell is, what organelles you need to talk about, and we can do that in class. Describe how the cell is affected by a specific disease. Now, the easiest way to do that is to choose a contagious pathogenic disease, such as how a particular cell, maybe you've chosen cells in the stomach, maybe you've chosen cells in the lungs, and if there's a bacteria or a virus that cause a disease there, then that will be a good one to use. There are other diseases that you can talk about that are non-pathogenic. They might not have clear causes or mechanisms at a cellular level, so you might find it a little bit more difficult with those. But I'm not discouraging you from doing it. It's okay to say at this point it's unknown, if that happens to be the case. What are the symptoms of the disease that you're describing, and are there treatments available? This is a really important part. Present your work in a creative way that engages the viewer or the reader. So this can't just be an essay. That's not engaging or creative. So you need to find a way to draw the reader in. Find out as much as you can about the cell, how it works, its structure. You can write an information report. You can make that a newspaper article, so a little bit more sensational with different sized text and images and diagrams. You can make a model, a video, an animation, or an artwork to communicate your ideas. I quite like that idea, actually. And some of you seem to be very capable artists. This needs to be original. This needs to be your own work. So, some cells that I've suggested. A plasma B cell, which is part of your immune system. Really interesting cell. Helper T lymphocyte, which is another a white blood cell. Both these are white blood cells, so leukocytes. And the helper T lymphocyte is a good one because there are some diseases that specifically target that cell. Motor neuron disease, lung cells, the motor neuron, the lung cells, muscle cells, intestinal cells, skin cells, photoreceptor cells, so in the eye, or any cell of your choice. Please make sure that by the end of Friday's lesson you have given me the cell that you've chosen, and I've agreed to it. Okay. If you're making a model, try not to buy anything. Try and only upcycle or recycle. That is the most labor-intensive way to do this, but if you've got a really strong idea and you can make the labels and do the research in class and do the making at home, that might work. I'm a little concerned that it would take too long to construct a model at this point in the term, and it might spread into your Easter break, which we don't want. Most cells have a general structure, and your specific cell will have some special parts to it. Okay, so I am looking for the general structure that all cells have indicated in your project. Make sure that you do your research using a range of different sources. They can be people, obviously the internet, but a range of reliable internet sources is a good idea. Places like universities and education centres, museums, anything .gov is reliable. If you're not sure, by checking the information on multiple sites, if you find a high level of agreement, then you can be fairly confident in the information that you're finding. Let's just have a look together at the rubric. So I do find that students struggle with rubric, so I want you to look really closely at this. First criteria is how well you've communicated the cell structure and function, okay, within the tissue and system of the human body. So only pay attention to the 10 out of 10 part. Clear, detailed description. Every term you use, I need to know that you're not just Googling terms and putting them into your report without showing me that you understand them. So you need to show me your understanding clearly. I need to see for 10 out of 10 on this criteria that you have done extensive research. So it's not a single Google search. You haven't just opened the cells booklet and used that. You've gone much further. That warrants the 4.5 hours that are allocated to this project. Organelles that are typical of that cell type are correctly represented, so they're drawn well or represented well and correctly, and you've described what they do within that cell. So why are they important to that cell's function? 6 marks for telling me about the disease. Okay, so you need to look the disease up, tell me about the disease and how it affects that cell. Not just the body, but that particular cell. Then the effect on the body, and then a detailed description of how that might be treated or prevented. So some diseases are easier to prevent than they are to treat, and vice versa. Presentation marks, so we get 8 marks for this, for making it extremely engaging. So if you just write a bunch of text, you won't get the 8 marks here. You need to make it interesting and novel, and keep in mind that we're reading lots of these, so make yours stand out from the crowd. Make it logical and fluent. So what that means is the language needs to be good, and that doesn't need to be written language. You can make a voiceover for that. Your final piece of work needs no explanation, so you don't have to stand and explain your model to me. It speaks for itself. It's labelled. I can look at that in my own time and actually really understand what you're trying to communicate. All your images are annotated and have titles. Make sure that they're not just decorative. So the images, if you're doing a paper report or a Word document or a poster, make sure the images aren't just there. They're actually working hard to communicate something. And whenever you're using microscope images, show that how much, what the magnification is for that. So keeping it relating to the content. That looks like you're there. 24 marks in total. As I said, don't pay any attention to this column or this column. You are only interested in ticking off all of the full marks there. Okay. Good tip is to get it started with some research. Start to plan, construct a detailed plan around lesson 2 or your second hour, and then work on your final product. making sure that you save some time for proofreading or checking against the rubric at the very end. Okay, any questions, obviously message me in Teams and talk to me in class. Well done.